Gyro is an in-game Hunter x Hunter villain that Togashi set up for Gon over 20 years ago. So is this man still going to play a role? Let's talk about it. All right, so first of all, I got to give a huge shout out to Corey who asked me about Gyro today and who is also a YouTube member. So Corey, thank you so much for the support, man. And also thank you for the kind words on 70K. I cannot believe that we hit that many subscribers on YouTube. It blows me away on the daily. But y'all pause to read Corey's full thoughts here, but essentially he wanted to know three things about Gyro. Do I think he'll still play a major role? Do I think he's on the Black Whale? And what do I think his Nin ability might be? So let's get into it. Something I want to touch on really quick that Corey also mentioned in his comment is that I have put out videos on Gyro before, so I don't want to retread too much ground I've already covered. So for those of you that are like, wait, who's Gyro? What's going on here? Check out these videos first. Okay, so for Corey's first question, do I still think Gyro will play a major role in Hunter x Hunter? And personally, yes, because I think that all of this setup from Togashi was not for nothing, right? And yeah, it has been 20 years, so there's an argument to be made that it was left in the dust, but I don't think that's a fair way to gauge this because the 20 years thing is more so due to Togashi's health issues and the hiatuses that Hunter x Hunter has gone through. And again, check out the other videos for the full explanation of just why this character is so important, but we got an entire backstory for a quote-unquote random character that had just been introduced. Togashi was obviously setting some stuff up to tease us in the future. And obviously we got this most telling line here talking about how Gyro and Gon just happened to not cross paths when they were in the same town, but they don't know if that'll be a good thing or a bad thing until they ultimately meet, implying that they will meet one day. And in terms of why I think he's an endgame villain, it's purely based on the narrative structure around how he was introduced, because this was the Chimera Ant arc with Meruem, right? Like the baddest dude on the entire planet. And I'm not talking about strictly power scaling here. I am just talking about narrative. Meruem was this Chimera Ant that kind of gained empathy and compassion, right? Gyro is a character that was a king, is like purely motivated on evil and does not view himself as human. And then in this arc, he literally becomes unhuman by becoming a Chimera Ant. Gyro has now been completely disconnected from the human race. This dude is like the essence of evil. And again, with all of the screen time that Togashi devotes to him here, he's clearly setting up a major antagonist. So let's segue this into Corey's second question. If I do think he's going to play a role, might he be aboard the Black Whale right now? And for my money, I don't think so, just because I don't think it's time in the story to bring him back in. Primarily because he is set up as a foil and antagonist to Gon, and Gon's not in the story right now. So I think the Succession War has enough going on that we don't need to interject Gyro as well. However, what I will say is that I do think it's at least possible for him to be on the ship, and we just get another small glimpse into his story, but nothing actually develops with it. Like maybe he's going to the Dark Continent or whatever, and we find that out, but we don't like follow him and he's not like a big plot point here. It's just a little domino to set us up again for something later with Gon. So that could be on the table, but still on the whole, I would just imagine that he's not here. But with all that being said, I do want to bring up a possibility that I discuss in this video, which is that since it has been 20 years and Togashi has faced all of these health issues, for all we know, the story has evolved, right? And maybe what he thought he was going to do 20 years ago, he's now changed his mind. And so I do think it's possible that some elements of Gyro and maybe what he wanted to do with the narrative could have been interspliced into what he's doing with Morena. That's not to say that they're literally the same person and that, you know, Morena is Gyro. No, but maybe what he wanted to do with that character, he now has just repurposed. And then finally, as to what I think his Nin ability might be, this is such a fantastic question because, I mean, it's gotta be something wicked, right? If he truly is this in-game antagonist for Gon, then he's gonna come packing some heat. So I would guess that he's probably a specialist, and I know specialists are like a dime a dozen. I don't think powerful enemies have to be specialists or anything, but I just think he fits the mold, especially considering what Hisoka told us about specialists, which if you don't recall is that they are independent and yet charismatic, and I feel like this just fits Gyro to the T. Chrollo is another great example of this archetype, but we know that Gyro is fiercely independent. He was forced to be, right? He had not a soul in the world that cared about him as a kid until he, took matters into his own hands, took out his dad, and then struck out on his own. And yet, we know him to be extremely charismatic because he quickly became the king of the entire NGL. And we know a number of the Chimera ants, once they regained their memory, really cared a lot for Gyro, and some of them have even struck off now to go find him. So that speaks to his charisma, even though he is this sinisterly evil guy at his core. And so obviously, if Gyro is a specialist, then it's going to be hard to figure out what his nin ability might be because specialists don't operate by the rules, right? But in order to strike out some sort of guess here, I think it would be cool if it either had something to do with like massive charisma and emotional control, or manipulation rather would probably be the better word, or something to do with like manufacturing some sort of harmful drug, because we know that that's what the NGL was being used for. He was trying to mass produce a drug to just put it out there, cause people to get addicted, and ruin their lives. He was literally just trying to cause like the most efficient and mass amount of evil. So I would imagine his Hatsu would similarly do something like that because it's going to be a reflection of him. So, specifics, I don't know, but I think it'll be something crazy. And then finally, speaking about custom nin abilities, if you've seen some recent videos of mine, you'll know that we've been talking about this and we have kind of launched this in the Discord. But I wanted to update you guys that today I made a nin forum for everybody's nin abilities. Previously, it was just like a normal Discord channel, so a lot of it was getting lost in the madness. But now we've got a forum, just like our JJK custom curse technique forum, for those of you that are familiar with that. But how this works is you can now create your own like individual post where you talk about your ability, and then it will have like a dedicated space for people to critique it or comment on it and all that jazz. It's going to be a lot like the JJK system. So we might have tournaments and other fun events coming up with that soon. So if custom nin is your jam, join the Discord. Anyways, y'all, that's all for this one. Another shout out to Corey, and thank you guys for watching.